Ahead this morning, protecting girls' sports. Nicole Neily with Parents Defending Education tells us how a Biden administration push to change Title IX could impact student athletes nationwide. Some lawmakers fired up after the Biden administration said it would restrict state bans on transgender athletes in girls' sports. Well, joining us this morning is Parents Defending Education President Nicole Neily. Great seeing you, Nicole. The Department of Education released these new regulations to Title IX that would essentially hurt state laws requiring athletes compete based on their biological sex. Tell us more about this proposed regulation.
Sure. So the Department of Education is pretty much trying to have their cake and eat it too. Their proposed rule gives schools the discretion to limit athletic participation to biological sex, but only if the district can give an important educational objective for doing so, which could be fairness or preventing injury. This means that in practice, every single school in every district across the country needs to come up with a reason for basing participation based on sex for every sport at every athletic level at every age. And the Department of Education then reserves the right to review these decisions on a case-by-case basis and decide whether or not they agree with the district's stipulated reasons. If not, and if they decide, you know what, this is not good enough, districts are at risk of losing federal funding. So it puts districts in a very precarious position.
Yeah, which sounds like an absolute train wreck when it comes to supporting Title IX's protection for equal athletic opportunities. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, what we worry about is that this places the burden on districts to decide whether or not to allow or just to segregate sports based on the basis of sex. And what we worry about is this is kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's not forcing schools to do so, but it's putting them in a position where they're really encouraged to do so. And so the department essentially has plausible deniability. We didn't coerce districts into doing so, but districts know without a doubt if they lose federal funding. I mean, it's what's called at the university level the death penalty, the loss of federal funding if you're found in violation of Title IX. And so we're expecting more districts than not to comply across the board, just out of an abundance of caution. And so it's eliminating sex segregated sports without actually coming in and doing so. So I think, frankly, it's a little bit cowardly.
And that was what I was going to ask you next in regards to federal funding, because would these new regulations affect K through 12 or collegiate level sports?
It does affect K to 12. And so really, I think the problem right now is that it's kind of anyone's guess as to how this will play out in practice. Age can be a factor. And so at an age, maybe in elementary school, where children have not yet begun to develop physiological differences, okay, well, that's not a huge deal. You can have kind of kids playing together in a big mob. We've all seen the elementary school kids playing soccer together, just running around in a big pack. I think where it starts to get complicated is when you get to older ages and into contact sports. You think about wrestling. We've all seen the videos of volleyball. We worry about lacrosse, where balls are thrown at very, very high velocities. We think about women's lacrosse, where women do not wear any kind of chest protection or helmets, whereas men's lacrosse does, because the ball is thrown at a much, much higher velocity, on average 20 miles an hour faster, and they wear both chest protectors and helmets. And so the possibility for injury is great, as well as the concerns about privacy in spaces like locker rooms.
Yeah, and talk to us about this massive uptick in states barring any student from participating in a sport that does not align with their biological gender.
Yeah, we've seen at this point, I want to say 16 states across the country that have restricted participation in sports to biological sex. And so another concern that we've heard rumblings about is that the impact that this has on federalism. It's starting to gut the autonomy of states that have decided these are our values, these are our priorities. And so the Biden administration has come out in their fact sheet on this saying absolutely you cannot do a blanket state ban on this based on sex. And so I think we're going to see, much like we will see with the forthcoming Biden administration on kind of general Title IX rules, I think we're going to see quite a lot of litigation about this sports rule soon.
I think you're right. Parents Defending Education President Nicole Neily, appreciate you joining us this morning. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.